Study Arata. Are you the type of person who has tried several times to learn a foreign language and failed? If you have tried to study a foreign language and have not been able to achieve the desired level of fluency, it is very likely that you have not clearly defined what your motivation was. The difficulty of learning other languages happens if you are the type of person who starts studying with great enthusiasm. You go and buy books and dictionaries and enroll in different courses. All of this allows you to move quickly in the first few days, and you already begin to speak some memorized phrases. However, when an unexpected event occurs, such as an increase in the amount of work, or a personal event such as the renovation in your home, you have less free time. And then you take a short break from your studies, and this break ends up being longer than you wished. Thus, you go months and months without studying, and when you return, you need to start from scratch again. If that's the case, let's talk now. To perform any activity, you first need to be very clear about what your motivation is. Without a clear motivation, you run a high risk of giving up before learning the language. You see, some projects are small. They can be completed quickly. For example, painting your bedroom walls. This project requires multiple intermediate steps. You need to choose the color, you need to buy the paint, the brushes, the leather, and you need to move items around so they don't get dirty, and you just need to protect the floor. And as much as this activity may seem difficult or scary to some people, you will certainly be able to complete it in a few days. There is a lot of effort, but this is a project of limited scope. On the other hand, there are other types of projects that will require a few months or even a few years of dedication. For example, getting into physical shape, mastering a martial art, starting a profitable company, learning a foreign language. All of these projects will require long-term dedication, and you need to be very clear about what your motivation is. Without clarity, you risk ending up abandoning the project halfway. Fluent language learning will require more dedication of your time than the time required to finish painting your bedroom wall. However, pay attention. I told you that you will need a few months in case you want to achieve total fluency. Now, if you just want to learn how to interact in specific, simple situations like learning how to shop or how to greet people, you can learn basic targeted sentences. This segmented learning can be done in just a few hours when you are on a plane before landing to your destination. In the How to Speak Languages course, I explain to you the difference among different levels of fluency depth. Your motivation can be weakened if you don't feel like you need to use the language. Let me explain a little more in detail to you what the degree of fluency would be and why it is important. For example, if you tell me that you want to learn Norwegian because you want to visit Oslo, the capital of Norway, and you want to chat with the local people, you will probably have great difficulty. Although local Norwegians will find it very interesting that you have made the effort to speak basic Norwegian, it is very likely that they will answer you in English. Learning a language like Norwegian would be particularly difficult because all local people speak excellent English. Thus, your motivation will be affected, and you will probably spend several years in Norway just speaking in English. Now, on the other hand, if you paid a visit to a city in the interior of Russia, it will be much easier for you to learn the Russian language, as there will be a much smaller number of people ready to chat in English with you. You will be forced to understand and also to express yourself in Russian. Your need must be real and not invented. If you have the resources to solve your problems without using the local language, it will be more difficult to learn. Now let's use another example. If you tell me that your motivation for learning German is because you want to read the works of philosophy written by great German philosophers, there is also a risk that your motivation may not be strong enough. In this case, if you really need to consult the works of philosophy to finalize your doctoral thesis, you'll have great temptation to use the book that has already been translated into English. In other words, if you have access to that content already translated, your need to consult the original material is not so strong. We can even exaggerate a little and say that it is practically an invented need. In a very similar way, if you answer that you want to learn French in order to watch French films, the ease in which you will find subtitles for that film will also weaken your motivation. If your original motivation is affected, look for new sources of motivation. Imagine that your company was planning to send you to work in the Shanghai office and you were excited about studying Chinese. However, there was a change in plans in the company and now you will no longer go. That motivation that you had for learning Chinese is directly affected by this change. And let's take another example. Imagine that you are in love with a charming Italian man or a beautiful Italian girl, and then you met each other during a trip, but then each one of you went back to your home countries. And then you were in a long-distance relationship and making plans to meet again. But unfortunately, the long-distance relationship didn't work, and then you broke up. This also reduces your motivation to learn the Italian language. In order for you to overcome these challenges in life that can reduce your motivation to learn the language, it is important that you develop your ability to find new sources of motivation. So in my case, I initially learned English because I wanted to read comics. Later, I acquired a taste for reading books. And finally, when I had the financial resources to be able to travel internationally, what motivated me was the possibility of interacting with people from different nationalities. You see, good motivation is never unique. Ideally, you should find multiple good reasons to be motivated in learning. As an essential strategic phase for successful learning, you have to ask yourself, what is the activity that you will do in the other language? Before enrolling in a course or looking for ways to learn on your own, you have to ask yourself why you are entering in this journey. You have to reflect on your purpose. You have to find out why. What benefit will you get? Is this benefit worth the hours of study and dedication that you will need to have? What are you willing to give up to have this learning? Studying new languages requires dedication and consistency, and if you don't have a clear purpose, if you don't know exactly why you're going to do this, chances are you will end up giving up halfway. In addition, understanding why you want to learn another language will help you to guide your way of studying. Learning a foreign language has several levels of fluency. If you just need to learn how to say some basic expressions like good morning or thank you, it will be easy for you to do this in a few hours and you can reach your goal. However, if you want advanced or native fluency, you need much more dedication. You also need clarity about why you want this. Arata Academy now has the How to Speak Languages training. It helps you to clarify your motivation in a clear and aligned way with your purpose. In addition, in these classes you learn how to create security mechanisms that will make basically impossible for you to give up halfway. And I invite you to know all the details by visiting arata.se/speak languages.